So I was driving around to people's houses and dealerships, car dealerships, and I was replacing windshields. And I did that for about 12 years. And I got I got interested in getting my real estate license through the process of buying my first house. It was during 2012. The economy was bad. Everywhere I went, every neighborhood I drove through, there was abandoned houses.
Yeah.
And I was seeing these houses that were, used to be 300,000 in my area. Now we're 120. And it really got me thinking, like, I can probably afford my own house now. And I don't know how much you want me to go into the background, but I started listening to real estate podcasts, Pat Hyben, Toby Salgado, a couple of these guys that do the real estate podcasts. There's a lot of them now, Tim and Julie Harris, but I would attribute that education to a lot of the future success that came later in real estate. So initially I got my license and I was working two jobs essentially at that point because I was still doing auto glass.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. And I didn't know what to do when I got my real estate license. And from listening to these podcasts, I started getting ideas in my head. And from a lot of the top producers that they would interview, I started realizing I have to go out and find people. No one's going to call me. No one's going to be banging down my door. I can't go sit at my brokerage and wait for someone to walk through the door because I have to work a full-time job. I had 2 kids, a wife, mortgage. So when I would get off work at about 5, sometimes a little early, 4 or 5, I'd go out, I'd go home, put my suit on, and I'd go start hitting doors. Because I didn't have money at the time for a dialer or anything. I didn't even really know what to do. So I just started hitting doors. And I'll never forget, my first deal was a buyer who was renting. He said, you know what, I actually want to buy a house. And that led to my first deal from door knocking. So I learned early that you have to go find people. And so I was basically working 7 days a week, like I was telling you before we started recording. I'd work my day job. Then I'd go hit the doors at night and on the weekends. And that slowly, I would use one win, so to speak, or one client and kind of use that momentum and roll into another one. And I learned, like I said, very early that you got to go out and find the business. And it's everywhere. That's the thing I was surprised the most about. Yeah. The more you put yourself out there, the more people you find that actually want to do something.
That's awesome. So tell us where you're at today. I know I like to pepper the conversations and our stories and our shows with successes because I think you'll agree with me. People need the wins, the mental wins. And so, full circle, here's your chance, full circle. You're now the guy people are listening to, the podcast, right, who are going to hear the story and then think to themselves, wow, James did it. He told me these things. He learned them from there. And so now you're the model setting that up for people. And so to pepper the opportunity appropriately, realistically, right? I think there's a huge gap in expectations. And I think that chasm that so few people cross that you have, I think the story you just told us and give us a win. What's a recent outcome of just listed, just sold, geographic prospecting? And also tell us why you chose that and why you would recommend that to other agents who are starting as well.
So especially if you're a newer agent, it can be a little daunting to get beat over the head by expired listings or for sale by owners, when you're a brand new agent. I wouldn't say don't call them, but it's going to be an uphill battle. So the reason I like just listed, just sold or geographical farming is it's an easier conversation. There's a lower barrier to entry. These people that you're speaking with are not being bombarded by calls. In fact, no one's calling these people for real estate. I would say 99% of the people you talk to have not been reached out to by another agent. You're providing information about what's going on in their neighborhood. Not everyone, we think Zillow, we think everyone goes to bed and before they do hops on Zillow to see what their home's worth, but not everyone is going to Zillow all the time either, especially older folks. So a lot of times when you're calling someone and you're providing them with a just sold, hey, your neighbor just sold their home. It's the same one you have. It sold for $400,000. That's sometimes the first time they're realizing what their home is actually worth or what it could be worth. Even sometimes if they've been thinking about maybe making a move, they a lot of times, again, older folks, things like that, they're not usually jumping on Zillow. Like as an agent, we're constantly looking at Zillow, we're constantly looking at MLS, we're constantly having these conversations. So we just kind of assume, and our Facebook, our social media is usually filled with realtors as well. So we're seeing all this real estate information all the time. That's not usually what happens with your average person. So I like to call Just Listed, Just Sold, because you're able to, number one, speak to people that aren't being bombarded with other agents. Number two, you're able to provide value. And, number three, I would say you almost begin to be well known in the area as the person, as the expert, because you're the only one that's out hitting the doors and calling these people. And when you can start, and this is kind of next level, but when you can couple that with also maybe mailers or some sort of targeted geographical Facebook ad, now they're getting hit twice. You're getting them on the phone, you're maybe door knocking them, and then they're seeing your branding somewhere. And it gives you an opportunity to establish yourself as a local expert.
Fantastic. And so if you could just give the audience a recent win.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah. No. The why is important. The win is good.
Yes.
It's the result of the why.
I'll give you two right off the bat that I set 2 appointments from geographical farming. One of them was just sold in the area, and she happened to be an expired. I wasn't calling expireds, but she just happened to have been an expired listing. I told her about the home we had just sold, and she said, you know what? I was trying to sell my home. I think it was about 7 months ago, something like that. It wasn't a good time. My realtor said it wasn't a good time, yada, yada, yada. Fast forward, I wasn't able to set the appointment the first one. And this is important. I'd like to say this first and foremost. A lot of times people think you're going to set the appointment the first call. It's not always the case. It does happen. But this is where follow-up becomes very important. So Just Listed, Just Sold calls, more than any other call, is about obtaining the lead. So once you find that person that raises their hand that says, I've been thinking about selling, or in this lady's case, I had my home on the market, it didn't end up working. I write down all her information. I keep it on these 3x5 cards because I'm very old school. I'm a young guy, but I'm old school. And I have, I'll show them to you right here, all these leads. And these are people that said, James, I want to sell my house, or I've been thinking about selling my house, or I tried to sell my house. So anyways, I followed up with her, one follow-up call, set the appointment, and got the listing. The second one was a just sold call. This was a lady who said, I need to sell my house. I've been thinking about it. I saw your sign on the corner. I know, and that was actually an expired listing that I had listed and sold. So the proof was kind of in the pudding because she had seen 2 different signs.
Yeah.
The first realtor didn't end up selling. I come along, I list it, I sell it, and reach out to the neighborhood. And that's the other thing. People are watching. People are watching the neighborhood. So when they see a sign go up and then they see a sold sign go on it 2 weeks later, they're making a mental note. Okay, whoever they hired did the job.
Yeah.
And now when you're taking it to the next level and you're calling them and you're saying, hey, your neighbor's home that you've been seeing the sign? Well, now you see the sold sign? Well, that's me. I'm the expert.
You're bringing the sign to life.
You're bringing it to life. And I'm out here and I'm hitting the phones and I'm introducing myself to the neighbors. And so she was one that, again, I needed to follow up a couple times with her because she was a little older, and older folks sometimes take a little time to get ready and get mentally prepared, and but again was able to get the appointment with her. So that's just 2 of them I can think of just right off the top of my head. And I say this every time about door knocking and just sold calls. I don't do them enough. I should be doing them more because I always have success. And just like.
And I think this is a good place to drop in. If you don't follow James on Instagram, he doesn't have just a couple of followers. He has thousands and thousands of followers, and so he's got
a lot of
dense, beefy social media following. And so for people to say it's one or the other, here's a guy who's got a very significant social presence in one hand, and also saying door knocking, FaceTime, and prospecting in the other. And so again, I wish we had the time to go into the marriage of the two, But
Yeah.
as we're going to talk about and move forward on is, like we said before the call, the base of a realtor's business starting out is, like you said, is go out there and get it. Go out there and get it. And so
Yes.
I
I
want
was.
to give you a little quick plug about following James.
Yes. Thank
He's
you.
taking time out of his day, share this information with us. We're about to jump on the calls in a couple of minutes. He loves
Yes, sir.
referrals. Where
Absolutely.
can they
Southern
find you?
California. On Instagram, James_Shelby, or just search James Shelby. I should pop up. I'm in Southern California. Any Southern California referrals you have, we'd love to pay you a referral fee. And, you're 100% right. I'll just touch on this real brief and we'll get started. When you can marry prospecting with marketing, when you have those two, when it's social media and marketing and maybe it's some flyers, things like that, and then hardcore prospecting, when you marry those two together, that's when your business is going to explode. So there's some people that say, oh, all I do is prospect, and there's other people, all I do is Zillow, or all I do is marketing. When you can marry those two together, your business is going to explode.
I'm going to make a note for us to follow up on afterwards. And so before we jump forward, there were two last things I wanted the audience to know. One was for them to hear the script that you use. And then two, we talked about the voicemail
Yes.
adaptation, personalization, if we want to call it that. I thought that was a cool thing as well. So if you could just kind of give us a quick role play of the script they're about to hear and use, and then we can keep the show going.
Sure. I keep it pretty simple with a Mike Ferry script. I don't hit it word for word every single time, but I'll give you just the bullet points. So I basically say, hi, my name is James Shelby. I'm the owner of the Shelby Sold Real Estate Team. We just listed a property around the corner from you over on 123 Main Street. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and it's actually listed at $369,000. And just calling to see who you knew that was thinking of moving into our area over here. And I kind of pause, let them respond. A lot of times it's, not sure, blah, blah, blah. No one I can think of right now. Okay, great. I appreciate you taking the time to think about that. When do you plan on making a move yourself? Again, it's an open-ended question, not a yes or no. It's a when do you plan on moving? It doesn't really give them an opportunity to say, no, I'm not thinking of moving. But, sometimes you get that they're going to say, oh, I'm not thinking about it. And then I follow up with, awesome. Well, I know you're not thinking about it now. How long have you lived in our area over here? Give them a chance to respond. And how'd you happen to choose our area? Where did you always live here? Did you grow up here? I just kind of keep it into a conversation with open-ended questions.
Great.
And at the end, I try to figure out if they were to move, where are they going to, and when would they want to be there. If they completely shut down all that stuff, I'll leave it and I say, hey, you know what? I appreciate your time. I appreciate you hanging on the phone. $1 million question, though. Who do you know that might need my help either buying or selling real estate in the next 30 days? Maybe they have a friend or something. So you had mentioned the voicemail, too. So This is one thing I love about REDX, and I don't know if people are utilizing it enough. Before every circle prospecting call I make, whether it's just listed or just sold, I pre-record a voicemail because REDX allows you to do that, so that you don't have to record the voicemail yourself every single time. So I'll record something like, hey, this is James Shelby. I'm the owner of the Shelby Sold Real Estate Team. We just sold a property around the corner from you over on Main Street. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and it sold for X amount of dollars. If you know anyone else that might need our help, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you want to know what your property's worth in this hot real estate market, give me a call at da-da-da-da-da. So that's a pre-recorded voicemail I use. And when I get to their voicemail, all I have to do is press a button. I don't have to, repeat that over and over and over.
Yeah, what I love about that is how you personalize it to every session based on the address. So that way there's like immediate relevance, like you were saying. You're putting a voice to the sign, you're bringing the sign to life, and you're kind of contextualizing the whole experience for them.
Here's something and this is kind of a small tweak, but it's huge when it's going to the person on the other line. If you're calling an area, this is a great nugget. If you're calling an area where you're selling the smallest home in the area, right? So in this case, this was and the one I'm going to call is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's a small home, but surrounding that area are bigger homes. 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom, and you'll find this a lot. When you call 300 homes or 400 homes around a home you sold, you might be selling the smallest one. So it's important to put an emphasis on, oh, this was just a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that sold for $350,000. And the reason you emphasize little, because if you're calling them and they have a 4 or 5-bedroom and all they hear is we sold a home for $350,000, if they know anything about the area, they're going to think, well, that's pretty low. My home, if they know the area, well, I'm in a 5-bedroom, and that doesn't apply to me. $350,000 would be giving my home away type of thing. If you emphasize that, hey, this was just a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath, sold for this amount, then they know, okay, that was a smaller home. It was only 3-bedroom. It was a small one. I got the bigger model. My home's probably worth more. So it's such a small little thing, but or if you have something like a home that you sold in the first weekend or sold above list price, I like to mention those things too. If it sold for above list in the first weekend, I say that, hey, we just sold a home in your area. It actually sold for above list price with only 2 days on the market, those types of things. I highlight those things because those catch people's attention.
That is awesome. Those are fantastic nuggets, and I think you made the wheels turn for some people watching just now. And so I think this is we'll do one question before we jump into the session. I think this is a good question to ask for everyone listening, especially new agents who are not going to have listings. And so the question from Jesse is, what if an agent doesn't have any listings or sales and wants to do this? I think that's the perfect setup for the rest of today.
Great question. So what I used to do when I didn't have any sales in an area or call in an area is go off of your brokerage. If you're in a brokerage, you have at least 1 or 2 other agents, hopefully. Usually in brokerages, you got 100 other agents, 200 other agents, 50 other agents. Pick a sale of theirs. And when you call, you can say, hi, I'm so-and-so with Keller Williams or with whatever your brokerage is, and we recently sold. So you're saying we collectively, including my brokerage, just sold a home in your area. And so you're using the successes of your brokerage, which I'm assuming was going to be okay with 99% of the brokers out there, to get more business. So if you don't have any sales, a lot of times you can use someone else in your brokerage, or you can say, hey, I'm calling because a home just sold in your neighborhood. You're just giving information. You're a real estate agent. Hey, a home just sold in your neighborhood for this amount. 99% of the time, they're not going to stop you and say, oh, well, did you sell the home? They're just going to say, oh, wow, a home sold in my neighborhood. You're a realtor. They're going to assume you sold it, and you're providing them information or value. So just a small tweak of the word, use the rest of the script.
Awesome. So I feel like that kind of wraps up the podcast version of today's show. And so if you want to get into live prospecting, making some dials, this is a great opportunity to jump in and show us all those things in action and practice.
All right, let me jump on here. I don't know if I got booted after I recorded that call. So I know we were trying to avoid me doing this, but here we are, we're doing it. I got to jump back on. I think I got booted here. The one downside of my office is my internet's not always great. So sometimes I get booted from the call. So I'll do this on speakerphone so everyone can hear what's going on.
Continue.
All right, so you just want to jump into it? All right, here we go. I'll say briefly too, I usually recommend getting your call started about 8 a.m. The later you go into the morning, I found the less chance that people are home or can talk. But for the sake of the show, we're starting now. But I would recommend 8 to 11 is a good time, or from like 4 p.m. to 7 p.m.
That's one of the most
to
common
maximize,
questions we get.
yeah, to maximize the most amount of people you're going to speak with. The other cool thing about REDX is when you're calling geo leads, it will tell you if that lead is also an old expired, or if it's maybe a foreclosure auction, lead as well. And that mentally prepares you that this person might, for example, this person I'm calling right now is also a pre-foreclosure lead.
The call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
So this is where I drop the voicemail.
Eddie Garcia
Once they hit,
is not available.
once they get to the leave a
mailbox is full
voicemail,
and cannot accept any messages at this time.
not leaving one there, but that's normally where you would hit that pre-recorded voicemail message button.
Yeah, share a little bit more about that psychological advantage you get with knowing ahead of time some of that information based on the dashboard display.
Yeah, I mean it's huge if you know that the person you're calling is more than likely going to have an interest in selling. It's not something I would normally let them in on, that that, but it can sometimes help you phrase a question in a way. You might tweak things a little bit, knowing that, hey, this person had their home on the market, or you can go through the first couple questions of the just sold or just listed script, and then maybe drop in that, hey, you know what, I'm seeing here that it looks like your home actually might have been on the market 6 months ago, and then if you have the expired script, you can maybe roll in with just curious, we sold the home for your neighbor. Are you still thinking of maybe making a move, or when are you planning on interviewing the right agent to get that home sold? Sometimes I would say don't let them know that too quick, but maybe roll into it if they're willing to talk to you about the just listed, just sold part of the call. Maybe roll into expired.
You've reached Jimmy Snyder. I'm currently unable to phone. You could leave your name, number, and a brief message. I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
So again, that's the benefit of the pre-recorded voicemail, is that I don't have to now record a voicemail. I just hit that button and I just left a voicemail without having to do anything. It helps you get through more calls quicker instead of taking 5 seconds or 10 seconds out of your time.
Hello.
Hi, my name is James Shelby. I'm the owner of the Shelby Sold Real Estate Team. I was just giving you a quick call because we sold a property for one of your neighbors over on Sagecrest Circle, and this was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It sold for $369,000. And we know usually when one home sells, 2 or 3 pop up and sell in the neighborhood right away. I was just wondering, when do you plan on making your next move? Oh, got hung up on. And that's part of the process.
Press 1 now to continue this.
So what's your thought process behind hang-ups? I mean, I know agents just feel like one hang-up, one rejection. Like, I know.
It's on to the next. It doesn't mean it. Honestly, at this point, it's just getting you to the next person quicker. All we're looking for is people that are willing to have a conversation, that might be looking to sell. Hang-ups, people cussing you out, it's going to happen. The quicker you can learn to not let it affect you, the more successful you're going to be.
How did you learn?
School of Hard Knocks.
This mailbox is not currently
Just, the more people that hang up on you, the quicker you get over it. It's just part of the process. And, once you have those successes, it makes it easier to deal with the hangups. Once you've set those appointments, once you meet that person, once you have that conversation where they say, gosh, how did you know to call me? My wife and I were just talking about it. I mean, once you have those type of conversations, or even the conversations for people that are just nice and say, hey, you know what, I appreciate it. I'm not looking to sell, but I'll keep you in mind. once you have those type of conversations, you kind of, at least I kind of just forget about the bad ones, the hang-ups. The other thing is they're not rejecting you. I know it's been said so many times. Hi, my name is James Shelby. Yes, can you hear me, ma'am?
Not so well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hello?
Is that better?
Okay.
Yeah, my name is James Shelby. I'm the owner of the Shelby Sold Real Estate Team, and I'm calling you about a property that we just listed for sale in your neighborhood. It's over on Sagecrest. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home.
Oh, I think you called wrong number. This is nail salon.
This is a nail salon. I gotcha. Okay, so you're busy working right now. Get that sometimes too. You get some wrong numbers every once in a while. You've probably seen it all watching people prospect. You've probably seen more people prospect than your average age, or your average person, right?
I mean, I've seen at least one every 2 weeks for the last couple of months because I've been doing this. So, yeah.
Hi, you've reached Brian and Heather. We can't come to the phone right now. Please leave a message.
So again, we're just dropping the voicemail there, pre-recorded, on to the next. Really a time saver.
I love watching everybody's different styles, approach, swagger, if you want to call it.
Sure. Enthusiasm, you can't beat enthusiasm. The other thing, and again, this is the little nuanced stuff you'll start to learn through prospecting, but mirroring and matching the tone of who you're talking to is big. It's, you can start off a little more enthusiastic. That's what I always recommend, is just being enthusiastic. But if someone's really answers the phone with this a very monotone, slower, approach, you can tell pretty quickly if you need to scale back on how loud you're talking, how soft you're talking, the approach that you take. You can mirror and match, and I'm sure we'll get someone here soon enough that, if they're speaking to you in a slower kind of monotone voice, you going 100 miles an hour with that salesman tone probably isn't going to resonate very well with that person. So sometimes you do need to dial it down, get on their level, so to speak, and vice versa. If you got someone that's a real driver, real, hey, what do you want type of thing, quicker you can get to the point, the better for someone like that as well. But again, that's a little more of a nuance thing that you'll learn as you go through and you learn more about prospecting.
Yeah, and I recommend anybody who wants to go look up, Google it, mirror and match, right? I think that's a pretty common, you'll find dozens of videos about that.
100%.
We do got another question coming in. So if
Yeah.
someone picks up, we'll just stop.
Okay.
Let you take the call. But Jesse wants to know, what if you get someone on the phone, but it's a wrong number or they've moved out of the neighborhood? How do you address that?
So what I usually like to do is number one, I'll apologize. Say, hey, you know what? I apologize. I must have the wrong number. But
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic
I'll
voice message
transition into who, asking them who they know in their, their old neighborhood there that might still be thinking of making a move. A lot of times I like to ask them where they moved to. Hey, well, where'd you end up moving to? And then maybe ask them, hey, do you still have any friends or family in your old neighborhood that, might need my help? Or who do you know in the old neighborhood that needs my help, getting their home sold? You still always want to ask them who they know, because chances are if they lived in the neighborhood, they still have friends, family, neighbors, people they went to church with in the old town that, might need to follow them where they're going,
Unless you're, what's his name, Ted Kaczynski, living in a little shack in the middle of nowhere. Somebody's going to know somebody who needs to buy or sell. I think that's how you handle wrong numbers. The Ted Kaczynski mindset. That's terrible to say, but
I like that you referenced the Unabomber and I didn't.
Yeah, well, I'm mischievous in that way, I guess.
The other thing I do, which is important especially if when you really start digging into the numbers of your business and you're doing your prospecting on a daily basis, is I have this. I'll hold it up here for everyone to see. I have a tracking log, so I track number of contacts. You can track if they're for sale by owners, expireds, what type of a contact they were, how many appointments you set. I like to track this every single day so that I know, okay, on average, I need to talk to 20 people, 30 people, 15 people before I get a lead. And then, from talking to 5 leads, on average, I get 1 appointment. It helps you track your numbers and, gives you insight as to how well you're doing, how many people you're actually getting a hold of, how many appointments you're actually setting, especially for the analytical types out there that they love tracking numbers. To be honest, it's been a struggle for me because that's just not the type of person I am, but my coach is on me, hey, you got to track your numbers, and coaches always know better than us. So something I started doing. And this worksheet, you can Google contact worksheet or, something like that. You should be able to find the PDF. If not, reach out to me on Instagram and I'll send you a copy of my PDF and you can get it out.
And we might do some legwork on our end and put it in the show notes or something like that. So anybody watching this after it's live will help them out finding it too.
I noticed too, a lot of people that prospect, I don't want to say a lot, but some of the people that prospect sit. For me personally, I like to stand. I know a lot of people that prospect like to stand.
Please leave your
I feel like I can bring the energy a little bit more. I can kind of pace around if I'm really on a good call. But, different strokes for different folks. I think Greg is my buddy Greg McDaniel likes to sit, I think, so, and drink a beer. So I can't blame him for that.
Famous, infamous, R-rated Greg McDaniel.
Good old Greg. I love Greg. He was actually, it's funny, I listened to a podcast that Greg was on like 7 years ago or 6 years ago when I was first getting my license, and he was one of the first people I actually reached out to that wasn't in my area and just kind of picked his brain. Super nice guy, answered all my questions. I highly recommend Greg. Not getting a ton of people answering right now, but, where I'm at right now in California, it's 10:30 a.m. So, a lot of people are off to work, like I said, I usually like to start about 8 a.m., 8 to 11 a.m. You're going to find the most success. If you're really brave, you can start at 7:30. Don't mind.
We don't recommend that here at REDX. We recommend following all laws, policies,
all the laws,
rules,
I
all that. So
REDX is very compliant with all the laws.
REDX equals compliance. Yeah, that actually, to us, we've been trying to figure out how the best way to serve the REDX community of new agents, people who are considering REDX. Obviously, I'm sure Greg might even watch this and reach out to you afterwards, and not by no means is he new. And one of the most important things we can demonstrate is, contacts and connection times. And so, adjusting our show to launch early, just like real estate agents, we're trying to figure out what works best.
0, 6, 9, 5, 8,
You're good.
4, 9.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of trial and error in trying to figure out, when are the best times? When's the best time to prospect? When's the best time to do this show? And I think the two of those are exactly the same. So
yes,
we're dialing into that.
The number you are trying to call is not reachable. EPS.
And that's also why I started this morning's call with asking about success stories, why you choose these things, because I don't want the lack of contacts to be evidence that there is no success in this, because how could you be where you are and do what you do if this wasn't something?
Correct.
And so more than anything, I think it's an act of bravery to get on here and show people what it's about and giving them the confidence as well.
When you do live prospecting, you just never know how it's going to go. It's every day is a new adventure. So The one thing I will say is, yes, it works 100%. But the other thing that happens, you'll find, is that when you do get that appointment and you do get that listing from prospecting, you're then able to use that listing that you got from prospecting to parlay that into other deals. You get sign calls. You get people that come in. If you do an open house on that listing, you get people coming in from there. You, again, on that new listing, get a whole new area to call and say, hey, we just listed or we just sold a home in your area. So not only is it beneficial to get that listing or that lead from calling, but once you have that lead or that listing that you got from prospecting, you can 100% parlay that into some other deal. So that now you're taking that success, setting that appointment, getting that listing, and then maybe double ending it, maybe turning it into a buyer lead. Maybe someone calls on the sign and they're interested in that house, but it doesn't work for them, but you ended up helping them buy another house. Now, from that one phone call, you not only got the listing, you got a buyer lead. Or maybe the neighbor sees the sign and, oh, you know what? We're thinking about selling. They call you. There's so many times where one phone call has turned into 2, 3 other deals. Without making that one phone call, you wouldn't have had those 2, 3 other deals.
I think that's a universal principle, man.
Yep. 100%. The other cool thing I found that REDX does is REDX will give you a heads up. You guys can't see it here, but it gave me a heads up that the number I was calling could potentially be a real estate agent. It knows, it pulls somehow numbers of real estate agents. So sometimes you get a heads up that, hey, the number you're calling might actually be another real estate agent. It's amazing the information that REDX can pull.
The voicemail of Scott Woodward. Please leave your name and number. I'll return your call.
If I'm calling expireds, I'll give you another pro tip here. If I'm calling expireds, that guy's voicemail, obviously that was 99% likely to be a cell phone. So if I was calling an expired or for sale by owner, someone that I know tried to sell, a lot of times I might jump on my cell phone, because a lot of times I'm dialing from a landline. But for the sake of the show, I'm using the cell phone. I'll jump on my cell phone and shoot them a text sometimes. If I know, okay, that's 100% a cell phone, I'll jump on.
Kind of read into the tea leaves a little bit based on that. I feel what you're saying. Like a little
jump on. About it. I have preset texts for expired listings, for sell by owners, and I'll copy and paste and send them a quick text.
Hello, we are not available now.
Because these numbers, especially cell phones,
after the beep.
It doesn't mean that you just have to call them. These days you can quick text, say, hey, I recommend recording or writing out a pre-recorded text, providing your name, a link to maybe your website or your Zillow profile, so they can see, hey, this guy has sales in my area. He has reviews,
Hello?
Hi there, my name is James Shelby. I'm the owner of the Shelby Sold Real Estate Team. We just listed a property for sale over on Sagecrest, and this was just a little 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, and it's listed at $369,000. And I was just wondering, who do you know that might be interested in a home like that in your area?
Oh, I don't even live in the state.
You're in Texas now. Okay. Did you used to live in the Marietta area?
Yeah, I did. I owned the house in 99.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, 99. So you've been gone a little while then. We must have some old information.
I retired from the Navy. I was out there for like 27 years, but father gave me some TV.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. How you liking Texas so far?
Hey, man, I think California, but pretty street, brother. I'm trying to get by it.
I hear you.
Say, hey, how you like California? Or how you like Texas? I'm like, I love it. They give me some acres in California. I'm back.
Especially if it's anywhere near the beach, right? I hear you. No, 100%. Well, hey,
I appreciate the call. I wish I guys, man.
no, I appreciate you hanging on. I appreciate you hanging on the line with me. Do you happen to have any friends or family members still over in California that might need my help buying or selling real estate?
Not really, man.
Okay.
I'm 52 and all my buddies they ain't doing much in the investment world, you know?
I hear you. Well, I really appreciate your time today. I hope you have a great day and enjoy your time out there in Texas, man.
Yes, sir. You too, man.
Have a
good day, man.
You too, brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a good one.
Okay.
Bye.
Yes, sir.
There you go. We got to answer that guy's question live on the line.
Yep.
What do you do if they moved? See, and you know, people worry so much about rude people and getting hung up on, and then you get someone like that, you know, super nice guy, thankful that you called, appreciative, you know. No, he doesn't have anyone that, you know, is going to buy or sell, but, you know, people, believe it or not, you run into more nice people than jerks.
That was fun to listen to.
Yeah, it is. And I love talking to people like that, you know. It's just super nice, genuine people, you know. And he even said, hey, if I got 50 acres given to me in California, I'd move back, you know. So it's just fun to hear people, you know. You talk to all different types of people. I just had a guy on my team, first day with me, brought on the team yesterday. He's dialing behind me. And he was calling just solds and got a guy in Michigan who owns a house out here. It's empty. He wants to know what it's worth. Hello? Hi, Mary?
Hello? Yeah.
Hey, Mary, it's James Shelby. I'm the owner of the Shelby Sold Real Estate team right here in Marietta. I was just giving you a quick call because I listed a property for sale around the corner from you over on Sagecrest, and it's just one of the little 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes. And we listed it for $369,000. And I was just curious, Mary, who do you know that might be interested in purchasing that home, moving in, and being your neighbor right there?
I don't know anyone that's looking for a house.
Oh, okay.
This is an odd call.
Well, we reach out to the whole neighborhood because we like to give the neighbors the opportunity to choose their neighbors. Sometimes they have a friend or family member, you know, that is looking in the area. So we always reach out.
Well, if I knew someone who was looking, I would direct them here. So.
Awesome. Well, I do appreciate that. Have you thought about making a move yourself ever?
Yes, all the time.
All the time. Are you like many of folks that we deal with that are thinking of moving out of California?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Have you take my equity and run?
Where are you thinking of running to?
Not yet. Got another year.
Another year?
Someplace.
I don't blame you.
I don't know. Undecided. Depends on where I can get a job. Got to work. So the job's going to dictate the move.
That is true. Wherever you live, you gotta work, right? Do you have to commute for work now?
I do. No, I don't actually. I work in town, so.
Oh, that's nice. Have you lived in the Marietta area a while?
Yeah. Long time, like 20 years.
Oh, wow, that is quite a while. Wow. How'd you happen to pick Marietta area?
We were living in San Diego and just needed something more affordable. Within commute range. So
that makes sense.
Marietta it was.
A lot of our clients move here from from San Diego, Orange County, LA, because it's a little more affordable. Is that kind of what you were thinking when you moved this way?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. I do appreciate you hanging on the phone with me. You said you're thinking maybe down the line about a year or so, huh?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, would it be of any value to you if I could provide a free market analysis for the home you're living in now and kind of give you an idea of what it's worth?
No, I'm pretty good. I kind of know what's worth.
Okay.
I kind of keep track of, what's happening in the neighborhoods and home values, things like that. So
that's a good thing. Well, Mary, my name is James Shelby. I do appreciate you hanging on the line, and I'll check back with you every once in a while just to see how you're doing, and if there's anything we can do for you before then, this is my direct line. Well, thank you, Mary. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye.
All right. So with someone like that, I'll be honest, when I was first getting started in real estate, that would be a lead for me. Someone that a year from now, they're going to be moving. I still might take down her information and follow up with her in 6 months. But to be honest, where I'm at in my business currently, I like to look for the now business, the people that are moving in the next 3 months. So I'll take down her information. I'll write down her number, her address, and I'll put a note that she's thinking of moving, next year, for the sake of, this show. But a lot of times for me personally, and again, this differs from agent to agent. If she would have let me provide a free market analysis, I would have then dug into trying to get a email and all that, add them in the database. But, someone a year out, again, I'd probably just keep on moving. But for the sake of the show, I'll take down her info. I'll put her in a follow-up call. I'll check back in 3 months and just see, hey, and on that follow-up call that I'm going to set 3 months from now, I'm going to say, hey, Mary, James, Shelby, I spoke with you about 3 months ago. We sold that property in your neighborhood. I just want to see, you had mentioned you're thinking about moving in 2020. Is that still in the plans for you? And if she says, yes, it's still in the plans for me, I said, great. Are you still thinking, about mid-year, or have you decided? I remember you said you were moving east, and these are all notes I'll make on the card. You moving east. Did you settle on kind of what state you wanted to move to, and take it from there? So, good conversation, good lead. You could tell from the beginning she was a little hesitant, a little grumpy, but, just easing into those questions and then getting her to divulge that, hey, yes, I am thinking of moving. Why? Tired of California, like most people. Where'd you move from? San Diego. We know now she's not retiring because now she said, hey, wherever I go, I got to work. So we know, okay, she's not moving for retirement. So these are the little nuggets that you want to dig into to find people's motivation and reason for moving and things like that. So it's a good lead for down the line. But again, for me personally, I'm looking for more of now business.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that down for us. That was fantastic.
All right, so let me write this down real quick before I forget. And yeah, the more little notes you can make, and a lot of people, they're going to say, well, James, you're in the Flintstone days. I don't know why you're writing on 3x5 cards. If you have a better way of doing it that allows you to write more notes, or you got Follow Up Boss, or you got one of these CRMs, more power to you. For me personally, old school's better for me. So everyone's got their own way of doing things. There's no wrong way to do it. People always ask, what's the best CRM? What's the best, whatever you're going to use is the best one.
That's a good answer. And for those of you watching who are REDX customers already, the Vortex platform has a built-in area for notes that you could put this in.
That is true.
So,
I need to probably utilize that.
Yeah, it's a matter of preference. So that's built in and part of the program already.
I'm an old soul, Justin. I'm a pen and paper guy.
I was reading a book recently about the writing process, and this one guy was just talking about how there's something about what he creates, he needs to write it all out by hand. There's just something about it for that guy. So.
All right, so moving east in 2020, not sure what state. And then I put the date that I first talked to him, so it's 8/6. Name, number, address. And if you, depending on how involved you are in the community and door knocking and all that, if you really want to take it next level, you can mail her a card, stop by, give her a card. Hey, Mary, I spoke with you on the phone. I really appreciate it. Here's a card real quick. I know you're not moving for a year or so, but here's my card. Great to meet you, and get the heck out of there.
Yeah, that might be a good place for us to actually wrap up, I think.
Okay.
Spend a little bit more time. We got one more question, which is really, we covered in the beginning already, which was, what does your voicemail sound like? But I also think, when, like the evolution, right? What people aren't going to be able to see on today's call, which would be the things you do after you set an appointment, right? So to kind of talk about what that process looks like, because, today's session, that's going to be invisible to them. So if we could address the voicemail and then the things and steps you go through. So like after you get someone says, yeah, what would be the next step? Talk us through some of those scenarios.
So here, let me hang this up if we're the voicemail is going to be, I don't leave voicemails for expired or for sale by owner, personally me. For the just listed, just sold, the voicemail is going to pretty much contain the information that you're going to be leaving, whether they pick up or don't. So, your name, what you do, the reason for your call. We just listed or we just sold a property around the corner from you at 123 Main Street. It sold for $365,000, and I just wanted to see, or basically I say something along the lines, it just sold for $365,000, and we know usually when one home sells, a couple more sell in the area. If you want to know what your property's worth, give me a call back at to answer the question about what to do what was that question again? What to do when they say that?
You've got, let's just say, a couple of dispositions here. One of the dispositions we just saw was, you contacted them, connected with them. They're not a lead. You're not going to follow up, right? But then what do you do under the circumstances where the next progressive path is, oh, wait, this is someone I believe, your spidey sense around follow, or if they're just really direct about it,
Sure.
What does those next steps look like for you to then acquire or set the listing appointment?
Yes. So a lot of times I will say, if you can set the appointment on the first call, great. If they say, actually, we're interviewing agents this week, you got to be in Texas next month, then I would say, hey, wow, you're interviewing. I can't believe this is meant to be, type of thing. I'll say something kind of funny along those lines, like, I'm so glad I called you. Are you familiar with what I do to get homes sold? And they're going to say, oh, either they're going to say, yeah, well, you guys are kind of all the same, right? Or they're going to say, well, no, I don't know. Either way, you can say, hey, you know what? I'd love to show you exactly what we do. When would be the best time? You said you're interviewing agents this week. I have Monday available at 4, or would Tuesday be better? Go for the appointment right there. If they're expressing that they're selling in the next week or two, go for the appointment. If there's someone like Mary that we just spoke with and she said, I'm thinking about it, we're definitely moving probably in the next 3 months or so. At that point, I would say, great, Mary. I appreciate that you're letting me in on that information. I'd still ask her, are you familiar with what we do to sell homes? No, I'm not. Okay. Would it be okay if I followed up with you? I would try to figure out these 3 things first. I apologize. I got a little ahead. When they say, yeah, we're thinking about moving, I'd say, great. Where are you thinking about moving to? If they're going to be moving in the next 3 months, they're probably going to know. Okay, we're moving to Texas. Great. Oh, wow, Texas. What brings you to Texas? So I want to know where they're moving. Number 2, why they're moving there. And then number 3, if they haven't said it already, when they need to be there. Now, if it's not for another 3 months, I'll let them know, hey, in this market, are you aware that it can take 1 to 3 months to get your home sold? And you should know your area, average days on market. You should know about how long. If they say, well, wow, no, I didn't know that, then I'd say, hey, then I'd go for the appointment right there. Hey, would it be okay if we stop by? I can show you exactly what I do to get home sold, how much they're selling for, those type of things. If they say, it doesn't really matter, I'm not moving for 6 months, I'll put them in a follow-up and just follow up every month or so. And just say, hey, is moving still in the plans for you? Are you still planning on moving in March? Okay, great, March. I'll follow up again in November, again in December. And then when it gets to January, if they said they're going to move in March, once it gets to about January, I'll start following up maybe once every other week. Hey, you still thinking about March? Okay, until you get close enough to where you can set the appointment.
That's beautiful. Simple too. I think that's part of the problem, that most people don't realize how simple it is and how complex they're making it. And what you've figured out is how to turn that complexity into simplicity. And I've really enjoyed our show today. I wish we had more time. Yeah.
One last thing I'll leave people with in regards to follow-up, and then I'll shut up. I'll get out of here. don't give everything away too soon. So if you decide to go meet with them and they're still not moving for 3 months or 6 months, don't bring everything. Don't bring the net sheet and the contract and your plan. Just go meet, take a look at their house, maybe say, oh, these few homes sold around here. Because if you give them too much information, all they're going to do if they're not moving for 6 months is use that as ammunition to try to find someone that's going to do it cheaper, or they think does a different, better strategy or something. Just go meet, set up the rapport, and say, hey, you know what? I appreciate you having me out. I'll follow up with you when you get closer, and we'll sit down for an actual appointment or an actual, listing appointment.
You read my mind. I was like, I wanted to take the conversation to like, okay, what happens next? And like we could spend a whole nother next hour, and I'm sure there are thousands of people who want to hear what that next process looks like for you. And after today, I know you and I will be talking more often.
Absolutely.
Getting into some other stuff. I think, again, you represent a lot of people. I would say a lot of people's hopes and dreams on what they can become in real estate. Obviously, this wasn't like complex. This wasn't hard. This was just you being natural, authentic, connecting, letting things roll off your back, and then just showing up every day for a daily dose to do it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, just to give some people some insight, I'm on track. We're going to do about 75 deals is what we're on track for this year. Obviously, our goal is to get to that 100, 150 mark, but, only doing this for about 5-6 years, we're happy with where we're at. And I think the thing I'm most proud of when it comes to those 75 transactions is our marketing budget is very, very small. No Zillow leads, no Realtor.com. So I'm keeping the bulk of the money earned. We don't have this huge marketing budget to where, you make X amount, but you're giving 70% of it back to these companies. All you need is a dialer and some hard work.
And I feel silly for asking this. I'm going to laugh. You might too. But where do you get your leads from?
REDX. REDX is the way to go.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
And you know what? Go. It's the absolute best way to maximize your profits if you're willing to put in a little bit of work. Not even real hard work. It's just work.
Awesome. Well, why don't you and I connect a little bit after this call? I'll follow up with you. So let me just say goodbye to everybody who's watching right now. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. James, Shelby, thank you for putting on a show for us today, explaining so much detail. The community thanks you on their behalf. I'm thanking you. And I also want to thank all the people here at REDX who work in support, work in content, work on the sales team, all the different departments to make the show, the product, the experience that you guys get to have every day all come together. And so I'm in gratitude for them, again, on their behalf. And so if you're a REDX customer, we have a forum where there's people like James who are in there answering questions. So that's through the Vortex app. Regardless of whether you're a customer, you can go to the REDX blog. Tons of great content on there. I have a feeling one day we're going to see James's content, James's podcast.
I need to get on there.
Yeah, we got to get you on there. Sign up for the newsletter. It comes out weekly. We get back emails every week saying, thanks for this. Who else can I send this to? How can I invite others? So we know we're doing something right. And so that's today's live prospecting show. I'm your host, Justin Zimmerman. Again, James, thanks so much for taking your time, and see everybody on the next show.